Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their Week 4 matchup, played October 4, 2015, as these two NFC South division rivals went at it. We're going to go over the scores, and we're going to go over the stats, and we're going to give our breakdown and analysis. Let's get started in the first quarter. Less than 3 minutes into this game, Graham Gano put the first points on the scoreboard as he hit a 24-yard field goal that made it 3-0 Carolina over Tampa Bay. Then, less than a minute and a half later, Josh Norman picked off Jameis Winston, and Josh Norman ran it back 46 yards for the pick six. And then Gano added the extra point, and it was now 10-0 Panthers over the Buccaneers. But then about less than 4 minutes later, with still 7 minutes left in the first quarter, Kyle Brinza hit a 42-yard field goal to put the Bucs on the scoreboard as they cut the Panthers' lead to 7 with the score Carolina 10, Tampa Bay 3. That would remain the score after 1 quarter of play. Then in the second quarter, about 4 minutes in, Ginn Jr. caught a 6-yard touchdown pass from Cam Newton, and with the extra point by Graham Gano, it was now 17-3 as Carolina extended their lead over the Buccaneers to 14. But then, with a little over 4 minutes left to play before halftime, Doug Martin, the muscle hamster, punched it in from 5 yards out. The extra point by Brinza would then make it a 7-point game with the score Carolina 17, Tampa Bay 10. So that was the score going into the locker rooms at halftime. Then in the third quarter, less than 3 minutes into the third, Dickson scooped up a fumble and ran it 57 yards for the second defensive touchdown of the day by the Carolina Panthers. The extra point by Gano was good, and it was now a 14-point lead for Carolina with the score 24-10. So now, halfway through the third quarter, Cam Newton would hit Ginn Jr. for the second time in this game for a touchdown. This one a 12-yard touchdown. The extra point by Gano was good, and it was now a 21-point lead for Carolina as they were pouring it on with the score 31-10, Panthers over the Bucs. Then with less than 3 minutes still left in the third, Jameis Winston hit Charles Sims III for a 10-yard touchdown, and it was now 31-17 with the extra point by Brinza as they cut the lead to 14 points. So that was the score after 3 quarters of play. Then in the fourth quarter, about a minute and a half in, Graham Gano hit a 27-yard field goal, and it was now 34-17 as the Panthers extended their lead to 17 over the Bucs. Then, with a little over 4 minutes left to play in the game, Graham Gano hit another 27-yard field goal, and now it was a 20-point lead for the Panthers with the score 37-17. But with less than a minute left, Jameis Winston threw his second touchdown as he added a garbage time touchdown. This one to Vincent Jackson, a 6-yard touchdown. Brinza missed the extra point, and so the final score would be Carolina 37, Tampa Bay 23, as the Panthers remain undefeated and in first place in the NFC South at 4-0. The Buccaneers now fall to 1-3. They are winless at home at 0-2 in Tampa. So very impressive performance by the Panthers as they come up big time, especially on defense. Cam Newton didn't have a lot of passing yards. That's kind of an understatement, but he was the leading rusher for the Panthers, and he did throw 2 touchdowns in this game. So he was 11 for 22. He had 124 passing yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. He also had 12 carries for 51 rushing yards. Jameis Winston was 26 of 43 with 287 passing yards. He had 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in this game as the Panthers were having a pickoff party down in Florida. James Stewart had 10 carries for 50 yards, and Curtis Payne had 8 carries for 25 yards. And for the Buccaneers, the muscle hamster Doug Martin had 20 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown, and Charles Sims had 6 carries for 23 yards. Winston had 4 carries for 12 yards to go along with his 287 passing yards. And On the receiving end, the game's leading receiver was Vincent Jackson, 10 receptions for 147 yards and a touchdown. The muscle hamster Doug Martin had 5 receptions for 37 yards to go with 106 rushing yards, as he had a total of 143 yards in this game. Mike Evans had 3 receptions for 32 yards, and Sims had 3 receptions for 30 yards, which gave him a total of 53 yards in this game. And for the Panthers, Brinson had 4 receptions for 54 yards. Greg Olsen, 2 receptions for 28 yards. Ted Ginn Jr., just 2 receptions, just 18 yards, but both of those receptions were touchdowns, and that's what matters the most, is Ginn made it count when he did catch the ball. Those 2 touchdowns from Cam Newton, the only touchdowns he threw. With a big performance by Graham Gano, 3 for 3 on the field goals, 4 for 4 on the extra points. Of course, the defense coming up with those 2 defensive touchdowns. And Kyle Brinza, he's probably not going to have a job after this week. So he was 1 for 3 on the field goals, 2 for 3 on the extra points, although that remains to be seen, his fate. We look at the defense. Thomas Davis, another big game, 8 tackles and an interception. Dallaire had 5 tackles, 2 sacks. Norman coming up huge. He had a pick 6, and he also picked it off another time as he had 2 interceptions in this game. Coleman had an interception as well. And over on the Bucs side, McCoy had a sack. Danny Lansana had a sack. And then we look at the team stats, and the Bucs actually had more first downs, 25 first downs, just 17 first downs for the Panthers. And we also look at third down conversions. The Bucs had more than twice as many converted, as they actually converted 8 of 16 for a 50% conversion rate. Just 3 of 11 on third downs for the Panthers, converting only 27%. The Bucs actually went for it twice on fourth down and converted both times. We look at total net yards, 411 for the Bucs, just 244 for the Panthers. We look at net rushing yards, 141 for the Bucs, 133 for Carolina. We look at net passing yards, 270 for the Bucs. Winston was sacked twice for a total of 17 yards lost. Total net passing yards for the Panthers, just 111. Cam Newton was sacked twice for a total of 13 yards lost. Then we look at the penalties, and in this game, where's the penalties? 5 penalties for each team, 48 yards penalized for the Bucs, 45 yards penalized for the Panthers. And then we look at the red zone, 2 for 5 for Carolina, 3 for 5 for Tampa Bay, 40% for the Panthers, 60% for the Bucs. The Bucs actually had the ball more, 32 minutes and 8 seconds, and 27 minutes 52 seconds for Carolina. But it was their defense that came up big. They let up a lot of yards, but at that point, a lot of that was garbage time yards. As the Panthers, they jumped out to that early lead. They were up by 21 points at one point. They had the 2 defensive touchdowns. Their defense was just going crazy. Graham Gano just kept nailing those field goals. He had 3 of them in the game. They said once they got up by so much, give the Bucs credit that they didn't just quit. Winston, even though he threw those 4 interceptions, he still continued, to throw the ball. And he got some numbers, and that's really why you see that the stats seem to favor the Bucs. But if you watch the game, you see it was a total domination by Carolina. Although they didn't put up big numbers, but they didn't really have to. The thing was, that the defense was giving Cam and the offense short fields, so they didn't really have to pick up a lot of yards necessarily. They said with all those turnovers, with the 4 interceptions, then also, with the fumble too as well. So each team lost 1 fumble. The Panthers actually fumbled it twice, but they lost once, and the Bucs lost the only time they fumbled. So 5 turnovers as the Bucs kind of shot themselves in the foot. But it was the Panthers are forcing those turnovers as the Panthers are playing at a very high level defensively. They're looking awesome, and that's why they're 4-0 and in first place in the NFC South. And they won this game 37-23. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend and enjoyed all the sports.